So now that we can do all of this, let me zoom out a little bit because we're actually not even quite done. We can create a subscription. Hooray. We can fund a subscription. Hooray. What was the issue we were running into? Invalid consumer. Okay. One more. We got to add a contract to be able to add a consumer. So let's do this. So interactions. We're almost there. Interactions. New one. Contract. Add consumer is script. We're going to do a lot of the same stuff that we did before. So we're going to say function run external. For this one, we are going to need the raffle contract because we're going to need to add consumer. We're going to say, hey, the raffle contract is cool to work with this subscription ID. So we are going to need the most recently deployed raffle contract, which again, we can find in our broadcast section, or we can use this Foundry DevOps repo that I made to go ahead and do this. So we're going to go ahead and do this forge install. I'm going to copy this, pull this up, clear, paste it, and then --no -commit. Great. Now we have Foundry DevOps. And what we can do is we'll scroll down, we'll import DevOps tools. We'll scroll to the top, paste this. And now that we have the DevOps tools, we can run this. I'm going to just copy and paste this right from the docs. So run. All right. Address, contract address. This is going to be raffle equals DevOps tools.get most recent deployment. The contract is going to be raffle with the block.chainid. And now we're going to do add consumer using config with this raffle contract address, the most recently deployed. Of course, this function doesn't exist, so we're going to have to do this. Function add consumer using config. It's going to take an address raffle public, and this is going to do the same thing we've been doing. Helper config equals new helper config. And now, in order for us to add a consumer, this one does have an add consumer function. We can go to the front end again, check to see what this would actually do. Consumer address. Let's just put any old address in here for now. We'll call add consumer just to see what MetaMask will pop up with. Go to data, it can't decode it. But we can see, okay, it's calling add consumer with a uint 64 and an address. And here's the hex bytes of the add consumer. This little function selector thing, which I know I haven't explained yet, is pointing to add consumer. And this is all the data associated with a uint 64 and an address. But we're going to reject because now we at least know that's the function we need to call. And actually, if we look at the VRF mock, add consumer is the same, right? Add consumer is a sub ID and a consumer. So we're going to need a sub ID consumer. We're going to need a sub ID, which we're going to get from the config. We're going to need the VRF coordinator address, which we're going to get from the config. And we need the raffle, which we are going to pass like this. So we'll say, we can actually scroll up. We can cheat again. We're just going to copy this line, scroll back down, paste it in here. We need this. We need this. We don't need this. And that's all we need. Okay, cool. So now we can create one more function called add consumer, which is going to pass in the raffle, the VRF coordinator, and the sub ID like that. All right, one more. We'll make this at the top. So function add consumer. This is take an address, raffle, address, VRF coordinator, and a uint 64 sub ID, public. Boom. And here we're going to put some console logs. We'll say console.log, adding consumer contract, semicolon raffle, console.log, using VRF coordinator, console.log on chain ID, block.chainid. And now we'll do our vm.start broadcast, vm.stop broadcast, VRF coordinator v2 mock VRF coordinator dot add consumer raffle sub ID. Ooh, okay, a lot of stuff. I'm going to zoom way out just to explain this once more. Oh, and what's this? I need to do foundry.toml. Is this in my lib? Looks like it's indeed in the lib. Do I need to do lib slash? Okay, I need to do lib slash. Sorry, lib slash here. But we can create a subscription. We can fund our subscription and we can add our raffle to our subscription. Oh, and what's this? What did I mess up here? Put these in the wrong order. Let's switch the order. Okay, cool. That looks good. Forge build. Yes. Yes. Okay. All right. So stuff is looking good. Now that we have all this stuff, we can finish our deploy raffle finally. So we created our subscription if we don't have one. Now we're going to fund it, because if we created it, it's going to be blank, and we're going to go ahead and fund it. And remember, if you already have a subscription, none of this would even get executed. So now we're going to do fund subscription equals new fund subscription, like this. And are we importing this? We're not. Create, fund, and then add consumer. All of these are coming from interactions. Fund subscription is new fund subscription. We'll call fund subscription dot fund subscription. Isn't that confusing? VRF coordinator, subscription ID, and also the link contract address. Because if we go to this contract, we don't need to call run, right? We don't need to call fund subscription using config, because we're already doing that. We only need this for when we're running fund subscription as a script from the command line. We just need to call this because we have all these, right? You have coordinator, subscription ID, link. Now it is funded. Huzzah. We deploy it. And then we just need to do one more thing after it's deployed, which is add it as a consumer. So we do add consumer equals new add consumer. And then we call add consumer dot add consumer. And if we go back to interactions, we scroll down to add consumer. It takes a raffle address, VRF coordinator, and sub ID. So this is where we can finally do address, raffle, the VRF coordinator, and then the link address as well. Oops, excuse me, not the link. We need this sub ID, subscription ID instead. Okay, zooming out. If we do not have a subscription, we create one and then we fund it. Then we launch our raffle. And since it's a brand new raffle, we're always going to want to add a consumer. We're always going to want to add this raffle to our list of consumers in the subscription management. So once we do all this stuff, the reason we did all this stuff was so that we can go back to our unit tests and actually do this part. We should finally now be able to call perform upkeep, because the VRF coordinator contract now is expecting our call. So let's do this one more time. Test can't enter when raffle is calculating. So we'll do forge test -m, paste it in. Let's see if all of our stuff is going to pay off. And it does indeed pass. This is very exciting. And because we did all that work, this whole thing is now a giant script that we can run to in one go without ever having to interact with the UI, all programmatically. We can deploy our raffle contract. We can create a subscription, fund the subscription, and add the consumer in one command. This is incredibly powerful. And we're now able to test our deployment script because we're using it in our unit tests. This is fantastic. So we're not done. We have a lot more to go, but you should take a pause. You should take a break. We just learned a lot. And yes, a lot of what we just went over can be a little challenging. There's a lot of advanced concepts this course is ramping up quickly, and that's okay. It's okay to be frustrated sometimes. It's okay to not get it sometimes. Just keep asking questions piece by piece. This is a marathon, not a sprint, which is why I'm going to encourage you to take some time to go get some ice cream. Or if you can eat ice cream, maybe some sushi. I love sushi. But take a break and come back to this soon. But take a break, all right? Recuperate your brain. Your brain is a giant muscle. Be sure to ask questions to both your AI buddy and to the discussions forum, and we'll see you soon.